weer beschreven, die zo niet dat checken.
Right, here we go. Then it's full throttle all the way to Abu Dhabi. We are rather than the one-stop strategy. Right, here's the starting grid then. We got one driver in the pit lane. It's Kevin Magnussen, some new power unit elements outside of his allocation. Alex Albon was disqualified from qualifying. He is allowed to race. His teammate Logan Sargent didn't take part in qualifying, but he's allowed to race. And Joe Guan Yu, who was slowest, starts 17th now, just behind his teammate Valtteri Bottas, with Esteban Ocon, who didn't get out of Q1 here for the second year running, in 15th. Lewis Hamilton has had one win outside the top 10 in his career. It was 14th in Germany 2018. He starts 14th today, alongside Daniel Ricciardo, and ahead of them Nico Hülkenberg and Ricciardo's RB teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Let's move into the top 10 then. Promoted into the top 10 after missing out on Q3 for a second time this year, it's Carlos Sainz. He's alongside Pierre Gasly. Then it's an all Aston Martin, row 4, Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. Fourth row for the third race in succession for him. Charles Leclerc, a second off the pace in Q3, starts 6th for Ferrari. Sergio Perez back in the top 5 after he appeared there in Belgium. George Russell starts 4th. Oscar Piastri is 3rd for only the second time in the last 7 races. And then it's Max Verstappen, who's won his last 5 starts from second on the grid, and Lando Norris with a 4th career pole. It's the two contenders for the championship lining up. Martin Brundle on the front row. If you're wearing orange, you've got the right colour, but who's going to come out on top?
Absolutely. It's going to be a fight there, and I think Max really got the most he could out of the Red Bull package, because the McLarens are faster, but will they be able to deliver that over 72 laps? The top 10, unsurprisingly, start on new medium compound tyres. The soft compound tyres will fade away within the first 15 laps. If there's no safety car, you're in great danger then of having to pit and fall back into the pack. First man on the soft tyres, Yuki Tsunoda, starting 11th, and then Lewis Hamilton starts on the soft tyre as well, presumably committing to a 2-stop to get himself a really good, he's got extra tyres, he didn't get through to Q3, he's got 2 new sets of those soft tyres, and to get a good start, a good opening stint, and then he'll 2-stop it and hope to leapfrog a few of the cars that are, but perhaps shouldn't be in front of him.
Very true. Valtteri Bottas also on the soft compound tyre. I think Kevin Magnussen might start on the hard tyre from the pit lane. That is Lando Norris then. And if he can finish the first lap in the lead, I dare say his job is kind of half done today, because he's never ever finished the first lap in the lead when he started P1. And eventually you're going to get it right, Martin, and eventually that pressure that must be on his shoulders now is going to fall off his back.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's super important. But you saw him just they're pulling the McLaren back, they pull all the cars back, so he can lay a little bit of rubber through his start box rather than just on the exact spot where he will start with those brand new, shiny, medium compound tyres. It gives you a little bit of extra grip, a new tyre, but he will be relieved that nobody around him is on the soft tyre, because that means they've got an equal chance on what is a really short run. And immediately, psychologically, Max Verstappen zooms up the inside to say, get ready for this little move, Lando. But yeah, Lando, I'm sure he's been rehearsing his starts on the simulator all through the summer break and getting his head completely right, ready for this start.
Yeah, can't wait for this start. It's going to be crucial, I think, for what is to come between now and Abu Dhabi. As we welcome our viewers to Sky Sports' main event. This is the formation lap. That's the man on pole, Lando Norris. He is ahead at the moment because no one can challenge him, but in a few moments' time the lights are going to go out, and he's got Max Verstappen right behind him, who will be challenging into turn one, and Oscar Piastri, his McLaren teammate, who will also fancy his chances. McLaren say they have the performance and the potential here for a 1-2 finish.
But why I think it won't be job done getting out in the lead in the first few laps is because it's windy. Lots of the track are down and out of that and sheltered from the wind. A few of them are not, and the drivers know it can be a different adventure every lap. Any one of those drivers can get caught out today with a gust of wind that's unlucky just at the wrong time in the wrong corner.
If you are watching and you want to ride on board, you can do so. We've got all 20 on boards and the team radios as well. You need your Sky Sports app and your Sky Sports ID if you're watching on Sky Q, Sky Glass or Sky Stream, or now use the interactive button on your remote control. Choose your favourite driver, whoever they may be. It might be the pole sitter. The pole sitter hasn't won any of the last 6 Grand Prix. It's the longest streak of this hybrid era since 2014, and the last time we had 7 in a row not one from pole was way back in the year 2000. So can Lando Norris win from pole, and can the streak end here today? What can Sergio Perez do? Man under pressure, but given the vote of confidence by Red Bull, and he starts 5th on the grid for the consecutive race after failing to do so in the previous 7 races. The strategists and the engineers lining up on the pit wall. We've had a few weeks, Martin, to wait for the return of Formula One. We are back with a bang here in Zandvoort.
Yeah, it's the second shortest circuit on the calendar. It's tight, it's twisty, it is quite a challenge. They run a lot of downforce there. The DRS, the rear wing open down the pit straight, is worth 20 kilometers per hour, 15 miles per hour. A very big impact here. And if you do come on to this pit straight, close to the gearbox of another car.
200th Grand Prix start then for Max Verstappen at the track that he has led 186 laps out of a possible 210 in the last 3 years. He's trying to emulate Jim Clark as the only drivers to win 4 races here at Zandvoort. It's his home Grand Prix. He starts second. Lando Norris to his right. 5 lights on. It's lights out and away we go. Pretty even start, but Max Verstappen in the second phase is already ahead of Lando Norris into turn 1. Verstappen leads from Norris on the inside. George Russell has got the jump on Oscar Piastri, and the 2 McLarens have lost places out of turn 1. Perez slots behind Charles Leclerc. He's lost a place too at the start, but it was Max Verstappen who got the better getaway.
He did. Both McLarens had too much wheel spin as they dropped the clutch, and now Piastri under pressure from Leclerc too.
Oh, that was close. That was close. Charles Leclerc right on the tail of Oscar Piastri as they filed through turn 5. Already Verstappen edging away from Lando Norris. That's Fernando Alonso just ahead of his teammate Lance Stroll, and the 2 Aston Martins down in 7th and in 8th. Verstappen from Norris, then Russell, Piastri, Leclerc, Perez, and a great start from Pierre Gasly.
What Norris must stop Verstappen doing is getting a second clear. DRS comes in, drag reduction system comes in at the end of the first lap. If Verstappen builds a greater than a 1 second lead, that will be very difficult for the McLaren.
Daniel Ricciardo trying to make a move on Nico Hülkenberg. Carlos Sainz has made up a place on Lance Stroll. Both Ferraris gaining a place on the opening lap. That is Lewis Hamilton trying to get past Daniel Ricciardo from his starting point of 14th on the grid. We finished the first lap of 72. There's less than a second difference. Verstappen over Norris. Here comes Fernando Alonso trying to get past Pierre Gasly into turn 1. He'll keep that move going. Gasly is just a front wing ahead of the Aston Martin and stays ahead.
And on those bank corners, you can run high and fast. And Alonso ducks underneath, but he'll lose out through the exit.
It has to be said, though, we wondered what the start would do for Lando Norris, and it's a sixth time where he's been in P1 and he's got away to the detriment of the cars alongside him. He is down in 6th place. He's got it all to do from here.
He's got to wipe that completely out of his mind now. He can't do anything about it. It is now plan B. What can we do? How do we use our pace now to keep Red Bull under pressure? Perez down in 6th. That means that McLaren are 2-1 when it comes to strategizing up front. But Piastri, frustratingly for McLaren, lost out to Russell too.
Hamilton's got a good slipstream behind Daniel Ricciardo in the RB. He's going down the inside on Daniel Ricciardo, and Lewis Hamilton makes that move stick. Absolutely superb there from Lewis Hamilton, who moves himself up another place into 12th place in this race.
He's got to make hay on those tyres in the early laps, Lewis Hamilton. They will be praying for a safety car in the next 10 laps.
They certainly will. Yuki Tsunoda, sorry, the RB that Hamilton overtook. And wow, that's a move there. Valtteri Bottas trying to make a move on Yuki Tsunoda and nearly coming a cropper as Tsunoda moved over to try and block the challenge from the Sauber. It's all going on down in the bottom places at the moment. Albon and Sargent both making a move ahead of Zhou Guan Yu out in front and out of DRS threat. It's a 1.3 second gap from Max Verstappen in the lead of this race. George Russell, though, hasn't got much of an advantage over Oscar Piastri. When we come down the main straight, next time around, Russell might find himself under a touch of pressure here.
Hey, well, and because the last corner's banged, you can follow more closely than in some high-speed corners, it must be said. So, but that's exactly what Verstappen was trying to do. Break the DRS zone. He's done it by over half a second clear now. To take Norris out of the reckoning in this first phase.
Verstappen, Norris, and then Russell and Piastri. We're on board then with Oscar Piastri, one of the 7 different race winners in Formula One this season. And he's got that DRS advantage that you were talking about, Martin. 20 kilometers an hour of extra pace down the long straight. He probably needed a bit longer of a straight there, but he's going to carry that move on as on the inside, Sergio Perez tries to make an impression on Charles Leclerc. Nothing doing there as we approach through turn 2 towards the bank corner of Hugenholtz. Turn 3. It's like a carousel there as they slingshot their way around, and Piastri stays behind Russell, Perez stays behind Leclerc.
Yeah, Russell critically was really fast through the penultimate right-hander, not the final bank corner, and gapped Piastri, and Piastri couldn't make it up down the straight.
So, competition, challenges, close racing, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th here. Pierre Gasly has Fernando Alonso right behind him and is being challenged currently for 7th place after a brilliant start from 9th on the grid. Carlos Sainz is in contention with Fernando Alonso as he's moved up a place. Lance Stroll has got Nico Hülkenberg for company, and Lewis Hamilton on the soft compound tyre getting ever closer to Hülkenberg in 11th.
This is the problem. Last time around, Hamilton's on leading pace, low 116s. But he's 9 seconds off the lead. The field spread of starting way back there in 14th place. He's really got to clear these cars quickly.
Once again then, Oscar Piastri with DRS. The sunshine here at Zandvoort and a tailwind down that long straight. And I get the feeling that George Russell is not just holding up Oscar Piastri here, but it's allowing Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez to move ever closer to this battle for 3rd place. Piastri will be getting very, very frustrated after losing that spot to Russell at the first turn as Russell dived down the inside. Gap out in front, 1.2 seconds. Verstappen and Norris, frustratingly for Norris, just outside of the magic second that gives him the DRS boost.
Norris he either needs to attack and do something about it and get the clear air, or he may just have to back off a bit and think a little bit of a longer game on this first stint, because he had better degradation on these medium compound tyres in the longer run, the little bit of running we did on a dry Friday session, than Max Verstappen. So what he doesn't want to do is burn them out, chasing his own tail, basically, trying to hang on to the Red Bull. So kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't at the moment, Lando Norris.
We know that DRS can be a powerful tool here, but you do get situations where cars are stuck in something of a DRS train, and from Gasly all the way down to Tsunoda, that's starting to happen from 7th all the way down to 13th, where the car behind might have DRS, but those in front have it as well, and they all kind of neutralize each other's pace. Out in front, still that 1.2, 1.3 second gap between Verstappen and Norris. 200th Grand Prix for Max Verstappen, and once again, he's leading here at Zandvoort. This, Martin, is how he got into the lead.
Yeah, just too much wheel spin there from Lando. He never really hooked those rear tyres up. Recovered it a little bit in the second phase, and the reaction times were identical, just too much wheel spin on the rear axle of that McLaren. They're two-wheel drive, there's no traction control, everything goes through the rear tyres, and it's cost him the lead at the moment. But as I say, it's now all about plan B.
It's about 0.4 of a second difference in the run to 200 kilometers an hour in Verstappen's favour.
It was almost too few revs, wasn't it? I'd like to hear that again if we can, but it was almost too few revs that he...
This was Pierre Gasly, who managed to get past Lance Stroll on his right and makes a move on Fernando Alonso around the first turn.
You live on your wits on the start of a Grand Prix. You can't think about anything. It's just instinct. By the time you've thought about it, you run into somebody. You literally just completely live on your instincts.
And Charles Leclerc, another one making places at the start, decided that the outside was the way to go here. George Russell, lovely move on the inside. Leclerc goes around the outside of Sergio Perez and picks off the Red Bull driver. And we just see here Kevin Magnussen locking up, and a trip into the gravel for the man that started from the pit lane on those hard compound tyres. Maybe not quite up to the temperature, but the Haas has been struggling under braking, certainly in the hands of Nico Hülkenberg, quite a bit this weekend.
Yeah, a bit down there on the brakes, wasn't he? Didn't have enough braking energy when he got there.
It's good, Max, keep it up. Just watch that rear left sliding.
Yeah, good information there from McLaren, but Max needs it as well. So they are definitely with full tanks of fuel in a little bit of management now, and Leclerc hanging on very nicely to Piastri as well, and taking, as you said, Perez with him. Bernie, you have news for us at Sky Sports Control.
Yeah, just to back up what you're saying there, Martin, they are into management. A lot of the top 6 drivers in particular are being told about managing the car through turn 7, so a little lift off through that corner. Don't put everything you can into the tyres like you would in qualifying. Now, the reason for doing that, although these tyres are wearing the rubber very, very slowly, so the life of the tyre is okay, by pushing the tyre hard, you're increasing the degradation on it. So lap on lap, the lap time is reducing. And the more you can manage, the more you can look after the tyre, the more you control the lap time.
Now, Oscar Piastri is out of DRS range to George Russell, and that's a concern for him. Lando Norris was seeing the gap between himself and Max Verstappen growing, and I think on this lap, certainly through the first sector, Martin, he's trying to do something about that.
Yeah, he's a couple of tenths up on Max and 3 tenths faster than Piastri and Russell behind him. So the pace is there in the McLaren. I think there's no doubt about it, and that will play out a little bit later on. Of course, you know, they'll go through their fuel loads. The track will keep rubbering in. It's had a real punishment, this racetrack. It often gets a bit sandy anyway, being so close to the coast, and then it's been washed every night heavily, hasn't it? So the track will come to them. But
Who we are racing? We think it's just Max.
I think we're racing over everything. The car ahead.
Yeah, not sure about that message there to Lando Norris, as here comes Carlos Sainz on the back of Pierre Gasly down towards turn 1. Sainz had much better grip there on the inside, and Gasly just preserving that 7th place with Sainz really on his tail. Into turn 3 we go now, and they both take the same high line, but well, we'll see once again Carlos Sainz and a move that he made on Fernando Alonso around the outside. Very neat indeed. And good respect from both drivers. It's that message to Lando Norris there, Martin. The pit wall asking, who do you think we're racing?
I know, yeah, I'm scratching my head on that one, to be honest, as to why Lando would know as well as they would know on the pit wall, because he hasn't got all the other information. He's busy driving his motor. But to give you an idea of how much slower they're going in the qualifying because of the fuel loads, it's around 6 seconds per lap slower. 6.5 seconds slower than they were doing yesterday afternoon in qualifying, which is an eternity in Formula One. But when you're carrying around over 100 kilograms of fuel, that's the effect it has on acceleration, turning and braking.
We're watching two battles here. Carlos Sainz is gaining on Pierre Gasly. Lewis Hamilton is gaining on Nico Hülkenberg. Gasly stays ahead into turn one. Hamilton's got much better pace under braking. Slides that Mercedes down the inside and comes out ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. So that's 3 places now made up by Hamilton from his starting points. He's on the fringes of the top 10.
But needing that long to get past Hülkenberg has hurt Lewis's race in this phase anyway. He's now 13.8 seconds off the lead. A pit stop here is around 22 seconds effectively. So yeah, and he was complaining, wasn't he, on the radio? I'm too slow in the straights. He's had taken too many laps to have to get past the Haas.
Glorious afternoon for Formula One action here in Zandvoort. The sun very much out. I hope it is a car fest this afternoon as well, where apparently 40,000 are watching on the big screen and cheering on the likes of Verstappen and Norris, Russell, Piastri, Leclerc, and of course Lewis Hamilton down in 11th place now. Afternoon to Chris Evans and all the gang there. Out in front, the gap is 1.3 seconds between Verstappen and Norris. I said that Piastri had lost that DRS. It will be a concern. Leclerc is right on his tail. The other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz is trying again for the 3rd time to squeeze that car past Pierre Gasly. This time around, it's very, very close. They are wheel to wheel going through turn 2. Inside line just favours Carlos Sainz, and he makes the move stick. 7th place for Carlos Sainz. He finally, Martin, got his man.
He did, and he was very smart. He left the Gasly space at all times, so the stewards can't even get interested in that move.
We are on plan A, say Ferrari, which we imagine is that one stop. And I'm sure, Martin, compared to qualifying, they'll be very happy with the pace that they're coming up with so far.
Yeah, and especially the way Sainz is recovering from... he had to get out of it there, didn't he?
Yeah. That was a bit more pace than Carlos Sainz needed when he got tucked up right underneath the rear wing of the Alpine. We just saw Pierre Gasly's new team principal, Oliver Oakes, who took up his position on Friday, came to the track, and his first big decision was to give Jack Doohan a drive for next season. We welcome the Australian into Formula One at the Australian Grand Prix, first race of next year.
Yeah, good hard racing there from Gasly and Sainz. As they swap places, Sainz up to 7th, as we saw. Down the pit straight, a little bit of debris floating around there. That's not what you need in your airbox, or your brake cooling ducts, or your radiator cooling ducts either. But immediately then, Hamilton is on the back of Lance Stroll.
Yeah, you can see how he was getting held up by Nico Hülkenberg. He's taken a lap to get right on the tail here of Lance Stroll, who has his teammate Fernando Alonso just ahead of him. It's a brilliant shot from the helicopter cam here to show the undulations. And we talk about this track being a roller coaster, of being relentless, and when you ride on board, you certainly get a sense of that through turn 7 as we go with Lewis Hamilton up to about 158 miles an hour. The track then drops away. You get a bit of respite after the next couple of corners. There's a DRS straight coming for Hamilton to attack further the Aston Martin ahead of him.
Thought on plan A versus plan B?
I think plan A.
Copy that.
And Piastri horizontal as usual. That's exactly what you need, isn't it? Crystal clear. He thinks he should one stop. In other words, are the tyres degrading more than we thought they might? But he's I'm wondering where the general McLaren pace is at this point, but Norris is just starting to deliver it a little bit more, isn't he?
Yeah, he certainly is. Now, I wondered with Piastri, as he was losing touch with George Russell, was he suffering from his tyres, or is he, Martin, thinking the sensible longer game? Move back from that dirty air a bit, protect the tyres, and then we'll challenge as we get closer and closer to when we need to pit in this race. And it could be the latter.
Yeah.
Talking of pit stops, in comes Alex Albon, whose floor was about 3 millimetres too wide. That's why he was excluded from qualifying. A new upgraded floor. The hard tyres going on. 59 laps. Could he get to the end on a set of hard compound tyres?
And as Pat Fry explained to me already, they just had to shave a little bit off it, and it was good to go. Frustrating all round, but rules are rules. And you can't allow 3 mil this week and say, look, there was no advantage.
Probably plan A. Plan B might be a way to beat Max.
Yeah, I didn't face this strong.
Basically what he's saying is, I think I can cover him whatever you do. So let's not go too extreme, too extravagant on our... I feel I've got the pace, and he is starting to home in now. He knows he needs to treat the back of Max Verstappen's car like the hind legs of a donkey, though, doesn't he, when he gets there?
So that message from GP that we heard 5 or 6 laps ago, just watch the rear left with sliding. Lewis Hamilton sliding past Lance Stroll. There's another move, and he's into the top 10 now. That start on the soft tyres really helping him from 14th up on the grid. He's up into the points now. So that message...
Doesn't turn at all in 10. Understood.
Is Verstappen starting to struggle a little bit with his tyres, and is this race going to start coming now towards the McLaren?
That's what I mentioned earlier on the longer runs, the McLaren looked better, was putting less pain into its tyres than the Red Bull. And Max, he's been told to look after the rear, but is actually complaining now about the front tyres as well. And there's an element here, as we're sitting in the cockpit of Lando Norris, of we're coming to get you.
Put it this way, Martin. Other than the weather, last 3 years here, Max Verstappen has looked like he's got the measure of all his challenges. Today might be a different story. And on board with Lando Norris with a new gimbal cam that tilts and gives you a different perspective as we go through the banking. You can see how much closer he is getting with every turn of the wheel towards that Red Bull out in front. And these two are cleared now by about 4 seconds. George Russell, who's running in third, as we see a replay of how Lewis Hamilton managed to squeeze past Lance Stroll. As he does that, into the pits come Hulkenberg and Tsunoda to cover off that early pit stop by Alex Albon.
And Norris will now get the DRS down the pit straights as well, as long as he can hang on through the trickier bit, the tighter part of the racetrack. To Max Verstappen, and he can get the rear wing open. That's free lap time without taking any punishment out of the tyres.
Front two go through, George Russell and then Oscar Piastri, still with Charles Leclerc, and Leclerc hanging on well to the back of the McLaren in front of him. But you know full well, if you're running between 3/10 and 8/10 of a second behind a car, you know, Martin, that's going to be, well, it's not going to be doing your tyres any favours, is it?
It's not, indeed. But Hamilton's still got decent pace on those soft tyres. So again, they've gone further than we were told they might. Bernie, what have you got for us?
Yeah, just on that, Martin, Norris has responded to a question from the pit wall saying he's pretty happy with his tyres as they are now. Happy for them to make the decision on when they do the pit stops. What's restricting any of these front cars? People might be asking, why is Norris or Piastri not going for the undercuts? That pit window behind is very, very busy. They would come out quite far back at this stage. They come right around P11, P12, so behind Lance Stroll if they were to box now, and coming through that traffic is not going to be straightforward to get the undercut done.
Thanks, Bernie. While you were giving us that strategy update, Lewis Hamilton was taking matters into his own hands and pulling off another move on an Aston Martin, this time Fernando Alonso, and Hamilton moves up into 9th place. Now here's intriguing, Martin. Fastest lap of the race, Alex Albon on the hard tyre just after he pitted. That's going to give some very useful information to those that think the hard might be the way to go here.
Yeah, that's quite a pointer, isn't it, for everybody? The hard compound tyre appears to be working. We'll see if that pace stays with Albon, but he's plumb last, unfortunately.
Here comes Lando Norris. Max Verstappen only has a few car lengths in front here. Norris has really caught up with Verstappen on this lap to the extent that they're almost touching as they come out of turn 1. Norris is starting to turn this race very much on its head here. Turn 3, the banked corner at Hugenholtz. Verstappen gets a very nice exit off that. Norris has just got to live with the Red Bull here through this twisty sector and be in a position to try and strike next time around.
Yeah, I wonder if Verstappen had a little mistake on the previous lap because Norris really closed in, didn't he? But if the hard compound tyres work, let's remember Max Verstappen has got 2 sets of those.
Yeah, my tyres are just numb. They don't grip. Yeah, copy that, man.
And that is a message that is going to bring a smile to the pit wall at McLaren and probably to Lando Norris when they relay it to him. And there are no smiles there, only grimaces on the face of Christian Horner and Gianpiero Lambiase, Max Verstappen's race engineer, in the background. Previous lap, 0.6 of a second, Lando Norris was faster than Max Verstappen. Norris, who started on pole and was beaten into the first corner by the home hero, but now with 20 kilometers an hour of extra pace, is challenging down the main straight here. And look at that extra pace with DRS for Lando Norris, who takes the lead of the Dutch Grand Prix. Verstappen will try and fight it, but has to back out. And we've got to change a lead here, and the pole sitter is out in front.
Yeah, now he can get on with it. Any pace he had spare in clear air. Clear air is king, we heard them say earlier on back in Budapest. Now is the time to make a big difference in this Grand Prix and use the pace of that McLaren. And Max Verstappen was very fair in that move. Get a little jiggle, but did not do anything outrageous at all. And through went Norris.
Last 3 Grand Prix, we have had 17 changes of the lead, at least 3 lead changes in each of the past 6 Grand Prix, and that's the first change of the lead that we've had today. And it is Lando Norris past Max Verstappen, who realised, I think, Martin, that he couldn't fight that one any longer. And the pace that Norris had coming off the banking at the final corner, slingshotting his way past the Red Bull.
Yeah, and of course they're getting the rear wing open in the banking, aren't they? There's so much surplus grip through there. And immediately you see the Red Bull moving around as when he was in the turbulent air. So this is the chance now for Norris, who's already 0.6 ahead, but he's dragging Verstappen along. He's got to clear that. He's got to get more than a second ahead and then use his pace. The pace that we know Norris has.
What's the plan from here?
I know, how are the tyres?
I think okay, mate. They feel pretty reasonable. I'm consistent, so.
Well, Lando, we think just plan A. We think plan A. He might try the undercut, but that's cool. Plan A.
Well, the undercut, where you stop before your rival who's ahead of you on the track, put some fresh tyres on and hope that you've got enough grip to produce a barnstorming out lap, and then by the time your rival reacts, you're back out in front again because they went significantly slower on that lap before the pit stop. Norris is doing his best to try and put around about 2 seconds difference between himself and Verstappen. That should protect him from the undercut threat. But are the hard tyres performing that much better, I wonder, so that you might need 2.5, 3 seconds. It's a short lap here, should protect you a bit more from the undercut, but if the hard tyres working that well, Norris could still find himself vulnerable. Still got DRS.
Full DRS, still got the DRS for something. That's critical for him now to hang on to the McLaren. Then into 115s now, this pair. It's a 2-horse race out there. But so Norris is not breaking away like he needs to.
I'd say that DRS probably worth about 0.3 of a second from when the cars enter the final straight to when they put the brakes on and the DRS closes at the end. That's Verstappen catching Norris.
So if Verstappen pitted now, he would come out 9th behind Lewis Hamilton into quite a lot of traffic. So the undercut, pit before your rival.
It felt like my brakes are going along, but I feel like there's a lot more wind all of a sudden.
Okay, we're checking now.
And the wind here, very, very gusty indeed, and blowing down the main straight behind the cars.
Your brake pedal in a racing car barely moves, but my goodness, are you sensitive to it when it does move a little bit more.
Right, as you can see, the car's getting closer on the track, under braking here. But look at this as we go into the next DRS zone. You said it was crucial, Martin, that Lando Norris broke the DRS threat. and he's done that. He's more than a second ahead.
Yeah, so he's that way. Let's see where he was on the detection point now. We can't see whether Verstappen, who got this incredible view, that looked to me like he still had DRS, actually, because he caught up a lot, didn't he, down the pit straight.
No, he didn't. He didn't. I'm told by Bernie Collins at Race Control he didn't have DRS. Tell you who does have DRS. Lewis Hamilton. Pierre Gasly is the car in front of him. The wind's shaking the camera around at the end of that main straight. And Hamilton pulling out to the right-hand side to try and get past Pierre Gasly, who has been defending a fair amount here this afternoon. Gasly was on the
brakes-wise, everything's fine from our side.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's winning.
Suffering from the wind this afternoon, as the cars have been all weekend long. Let's go to Sky Race Control. Bernie Collins.
Yeah, I was just going to pick up on that. They've been told that both cars suffered the same gust of wind through turn 10. It seems to be affecting a lot of the drivers, and some of them been given switch positions to help stabilise the car through that turn 10 in particular.
When you say switch positions, Bernie?
Yes, sorry. So I mean their differential, the tools that they have to play from a driving point of view in the car. Can they get the car a little bit more balanced, a little bit more stable? They could change brake balance, they could change their differential. They'll change a whole amount of things in order to help that car through that particular corner.
And on that lap, Lando Norris 7/10 faster than Verstappen, as you were pointing out, Crofty. That's what he's got to do. If he wants to defend against the undercut, he wants to build himself the luxury of not having to pit until the lap after Max Verstappen. That will be a wonderful tactical tool to have available to the team.
And it's not just Verstappen, I think, who's struggling with his tyres out there, because Perez now is finding himself starting to go a little bit slower. Carlos Sainz is catching him, and Charles Leclerc is on a mission once again behind Oscar Piastri. Continuing his mission, Lewis Hamilton, mission 44 on the track today, trying to get past Pierre Gasly. And out in front, 2.3 seconds now, Norris over Verstappen. Going well since he took the lead on lap 18 for the British driver.
Lewis in the 17s now, 1 minute 17s in traffic, whereas Norris is in the 1 minute late 1 minute 15s, for example. So that's the pain. He's now pit stop behind Lewis, so that track position has cost him dearly. But he's got a lot further into this race on those soft tyres than anybody would have us believe in our various briefings this morning.
Absolutely. If you're leading, we were told today, there's a potential to extend the performance life of the soft to 25 laps. Lewis Hamilton isn't leading. He's been slicing his way through the traffic. We're on lap 23, and the softs performing very nicely for him. I said that Piastri was under a bit of pressure. Charles Leclerc is right behind him here. Lap 23 of 72, and it's another fine effort in a race here from Charles Leclerc, who of course finished third, didn't he, in Belgium last time around, and drove a very solid race for Ferrari that day.
He's been very tenacious, hasn't he? As finally then, on board with Lewis Hamilton, we're up the inside of Pierre Gasly. We can pick the throttle up a little bit earlier than him, leave him some space on the outside. He did, and Gasly catapults around there. And so Lewis was obliged to not run him out of road. It was absolutely fine as long as your front axle is ahead of their rear axle. You can have a go at the inside, but you do have to leave them a car's width, a racing width on the outside.
Isn't it great to see, after being the slowest cars on the grid in Bahrain, the Alpine of Pierre Gasly able to go wheel to wheel, defend well, and pick up places here as we start the second part of the season. His teammate Esteban Ocon down in 14th at the moment, not having it quite such a good day. Here, though, comes Charles Leclerc, and he's going to try around the outside of Oscar Piastri. Piastri says, no, thank you. Not going to have that one. I'll force you as far wide as I can, and I will stay ahead by a few centimetres. And Leclerc has to back out. Trouble is, if they pit Max Verstappen now, he is coming out as Hamilton pits right behind Pierre Gasly. Actually, Hamilton pitting might help Red Bull, because they might have a gap to put him into now.
Yeah, he'd come out ahead of Gasly now. So it opens up the window, but it might compromise them later on. McLaren could so do with Piastri in the hunt up the front to give them options. He's 9 seconds, 10 seconds behind the lead, 10 seconds behind his teammate at the moment, and that's taken away McLaren's options to play games with Red Bull.
Now, we thought Hamilton was committing to a two-stop strategy here. He has got those soft tyres to lap 24, Martin. Put the set of hards on. That might be enough to go to the end of the race. It could still be a one-stop strategy from here on in.
Norris's lead is 4 seconds now.
Yeah, Verstappen's struggling. I think they need to bring him in because his pace has dropped off significantly. And Ferrari, maybe sensing that, have brought Charles Leclerc in from an early stop. So to try and undercut Oscar Piastri, but to try and maybe catch up with Max Verstappen a little bit as well. Hard tyres going on for him. And I think we'll see a lot of the runners and riders now putting those hard tyres on, as the gap that they found will be behind Fernando Alonso. Leclerc comes out in 9th place, with Lance Stroll making his way around turn 1, but not challenging Charles Leclerc as he makes his way back out onto the track. And George Russell is being told to stop now as well.
Yeah, to cover that one off, cover Ferrari off. And where's Perez in all of this? He's sort of back in the 17s as well. So, yeah, Norris's pace is now, he's now creating himself quite a wide window of opportunity here to be able to react instead of second guess and get in before his main rival.
We are seeing here a McLaren car both with pace and preservation too, preservation of those tyres. Mercedes are waiting for George Russell, who's just made his exit from the final corner and into the pit lane at 60 kilometres an hour. He now goes.
What it does also do is it gives McLaren for Norris more and more information, or both of them actually, as to which tyre they should put on when they do come in.
So 60 kilometres an hour might seem quite fast for such a narrow pit lane, and 3.4 seconds was a slow stop for George Russell. They're trying to cover Charles Leclerc. Here comes the red Ferrari, who's managed to get past Fernando Alonso, and George Russell, by virtue, I think, of that extra second stationary, is going to come out behind Alonso and behind Leclerc. So they were trying to cover off that early stop. Hasn't worked at Mercedes, and Charles Leclerc picks up another pace here. We said that he was going well, and that's another contender that he's battling with, this time in the face of George Russell, that he's managed to get past.
Okay, you got clear air now. Plan A target +5. Let's go.
Well, Oscar Piastri getting the motivational messages there, but if Piastri pits now, Charles Leclerc is going to be ahead of him. We've got one McLaren driver who's just getting caught up a little bit here, Martin, and another who's absolutely storming out in front. In the 115s on lap 27 on a set of medium tyres that he started the race on.
Yeah, and that's still faster than pretty much everybody else on brand new tyres, and Piastri responds with a 1:16.0. That's what he needs to do, and use the McLaren pace. That will start putting Red Bull under pressure as well with Verstappen.
Got to say, DRS helped Charles Leclerc here as well. With Fernando Alonso just ahead of him, that extra pace down the straight made it a slam dunk that he was going to be ahead of George Russell by the time he came on the track. Why was Russell stopped a little bit slow? It just wasn't working quite in harmony, and the harmony they would have wanted. Here's Lewis Hamilton in 14th place. Esteban Ocon, the other driver. Hamilton on the hard tyre after his pit stop, making his way back through the field once again. Bernie Collins, to you.
Yes, Crofty, it's really hotting up now on the pit wall, particularly McLaren. This is the first time we're going to get a feel for Piastri's true pace in free air. Can he match Norris? Because they have a big decision to make. They've not covered off. I'll let you go through this pit stop.
I think Verstappen's coming in. He is. He's been told to pit, and he wants to get rid of those medium compound tyres. His pace has been dropping off the last few laps since he lost the lead to Lando Norris.
McLaren have to react to that. They can't let him have 2 laps of free speed on a set of hard compound tyres. It's clearly the tyre to go on to, medium hard, one stop is the strategy that works, and they will surely bring Norris in. He built himself a 5.6 second advantage.
George Russell's the fastest man on the track once he put the hard compound tyres on. Verstappen comes back out into this race ahead of his former teammate Pierre Gasly, who is yet to stop in this race. Lando Norris leads this race. Oscar Piastri, his teammate, in second. Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz, the top four, haven't stopped yet. Lando Norris, since he took the leads in this race, continued in the lead of this race, has now become the first driver other than Max Verstappen.
Lando, we're going to box his lap to cover, suggesting coming down one. Happy?
Yeah, 100 laps this season. Key here is to get in and out again and continue that laps led in 2024 without any problems.
Don't take risks with the speed limiter. He didn't. Park it on your marks. Let everybody do their job. Left front need to have a second nibble with the gun. It was kind of okay. It should be enough.
So interestingly, McLaren didn't double stack. So Oscar Piastri continued on his way. Sergio Perez didn't pit. Carlos Sainz didn't pit. Lando Norris comes out in fourth place, but comfortably ahead of Max Verstappen as he disappears into turn two. Verstappen just making his way around turn one. So he's still got that margin over Verstappen.
Yeah, 3.1 stop wasn't ideal, but wasn't a disaster either. So now it's down to raw pace on the hard compound tyre. Of course, Norris has got a one-lap advantage in terms of life. That actually I don't believe will make any difference. And that was it. You just saw the gap. It was 5.6 before the stop. It's going to be, I'm going to imagine, a little bit less now because Max had an extra lap on fresh tyres. Let's see what they can do now in this second phase on the different tyre.
Charles Leclerc on Pierre Gasly, DRS assisted, not a problem with that one. And Lewis Hamilton has got past Nico Hülkenberg for a second time in this race. Here he is. We can see that once again. The DRS working beautifully for both Mercedes and for Ferrari. We're getting a few overtakes here, and one for the lead that has put Lando Norris ahead of Max Verstappen, whose teammate Sergio Perez is now pitting, and still Piastri and Sainz continue on their way.
And McLaren will be pleased to see that because it means Norris does not have to catch and pass Verstappen's teammate.
Yeah. 4.4 seconds though. That is not the stop that Sergio Perez would have wanted. There's a few out there with delays to their pit stops, and that's going to put Sergio Perez behind Lance Stroll as we watch Lewis Hamilton making another move down the main straight, and this time it's Kevin Magnussen that he's got past. And the hard tyres working well for him and his teammate George Russell at Mercedes as Ricciardo now pits at 4RB for his first stop in this race. So Piastri with an 8-second lead over Sainz. The gap to Lando Norris is the one that they'll be focusing on. Because he's the one right behind them on the racetrack, and this is George Russell behind the Alpine. And do we see George Russell send one down the inside? Yes, we do. Thank you very much, George Russell.
It's almost on tick over in the middle of that chicane, isn't it?
Sainz, I would imagine, is going to pit here. He is, as he veers to the right. Piastri continues on his way to lead this race. McLaren, remember, say they think a 1-2 is very much on the cards here. And Piastri's pace, Martin, albeit not as good as those that have changed tyres, still in the 1:16.0 on that last lap is still good. And a decent pit stop time for Carlos Sainz as well, 2.6 seconds. That's going to bring him out very close to Sergio Perez. He's got the inside line. Perez has got the speed. Sainz comes out, but he is right now on the tail of the Red Bull car with about 2 seconds less stationary time when he made his pit stop.
And Norris has just done a stunning first sector as well. They won 25.1 seconds through there, and he's 8 seconds behind his teammate, who's yet to pit, of course. So straight into the 14s for Norris. George Russell still has the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, also a mid 1:14. Suspect that's about to change hands and go to Lando Norris.
So Piastri then ahead of Norris, 6 seconds the gap, but don't forget Piastri hasn't stopped yet. Carlos Sainz is now chasing down Sergio Perez, who's got Fernando Alonso ahead of him, and Alonso hasn't stopped yet. Neither has Pierre Gasly, as down the inside goes Perez, and Alonso wasn't fighting that one, and I wouldn't imagine he'll fight too hard the Ferrari behind him. In fact, he's going to disappear into the pit lane, which is which is going to be handy here for Carlos Sainz, who, as they go into the DRS detection point, is right behind Fernando Alonso. Alonso disappears out of the way, and Sainz gets free DRS use to try and catch Sergio Perez.
Yeah, Perez had gapped him a little bit, hadn't he? In considering how close Sainz was to Perez when he came out of the pits. And then he's got to get tyre warm-up done. And in comes the Aston Martin, new set of boots. Off it goes. That looked sweet enough, didn't it?
Yeah,
Just over 2.5 seconds.
Into turn 1, Yuki Tsunoda with Alex Albon right behind him. Very close battle going on there. That's Valtteri Bottas around the outside as Fernando Alonso comes back out onto the racetrack, and two former race winners will continue on their scrap for 14th place. Bernie Collins at Sky Race Control.
Yes, lots of discussion happened on the Perez or in the Piastri video, sorry. He's at 4.5 seconds ahead of Norris, losing 2 seconds a lap. So that might be McLaren's point to box him. But at the moment they're discussing, should he come out close to Leclerc and Russell or further away with fresher tyres? That's the mix they're trying to do at McLaren to give him the best possible chance of overtaking in the final stint, trying to get ahead of Leclerc and Russell. Because
what do McLaren want, Martin? They want free air, don't they? To run the pace they know their car's capable of without the car being too far, or too close to them, I should say, in the opening stages of a stint.
Yeah, it feels like they're putting him a long way behind, though, doesn't it, Oscar Piastri, in terms of, you know, will he have a big enough tyre advantage? They're looking for a big offset. They need to either go a very long way or quite quickly pit him. Obviously, he will not hinder Lando Norris whatsoever. They are now effectively in a different race. But Norris 14.4, Verstappen 14.8. I believe they're both in clear air. They were. So Norris is faster again. The gap 6.3 Norris to Verstappen. It was 5.6 before the pit stop. So the early signs are that they might be even faster now. Yeah, well, that's the problem I think that Red Bull have got here, is that in clean air, the McLaren is a much faster car. Certainly was on the medium tyre with Lando Norris, and I would imagine it will continue on the hard tyre as well. As in comes Oscar Piastri, who just wants a nice straightforward stop, and that's exactly what he got. Verstappen goes through into turn 1, Charles Leclerc goes through, and George Russell goes through. But can Oscar Piastri get out here ahead of Sergio Perez? That's what McLaren are looking for, and that's what has been delivered with a smart stop and some decent driving from the young Australian. So he's back out onto the track in 5th place and ready to charge down now. George Russell and Charles Leclerc ahead of him. And he needs a sensational drive now, Oscar Piastri, if he wants to be on the podium. And what's he going to have? 6 laps extra tyre performance life on those hard compound tyres from George Russell. That was Gasly's last stop. Whoa, started going there while the mechanic, as you can see on the right-hand side here, was just taking his hands out of the way. Was he giving the wing a tweak? I think he was trying to, yeah. But he got his hands out of the way. And that's the main thing. Lando Norris then. End of lap 34, starts lap 35, is the leader of this race. And his gap over Max Verstappen, 7.5 seconds. Norris is metronomic, has been in both phases. Didn't lose his head. He lost the start, but kept his head. And that was probably more important than the start, given the pace he's got. He knew the performance is there from this car, and maybe that helped to keep his head just a little bit. Knew, or thought, from all the data that was studied and from all the practice that was performed on FP2 mainly, because it was the only dry session we had, that Verstappen could be vulnerable towards the end of what should be the only stints on and need to pit in this race. They have noted race control for an unsafe release because that mechanic hadn't got his hands very much out of the way. So we've got Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Piastri and Perez, all at 23.5 seconds difference between them. But they've all come in at different times, so the tyres will be performing well and then starting to go off at different times as well. So it's how they manage that and how they keep their pace up between now and the end of the race that could dictate the thrill
that we may or may not have by the checkered flag. And obviously we're hoping we get an absolute thriller with positions changing all the time, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, these hard compound tyres were predicted to be able to do 2/3 of this race, weren't they, by themselves? And every tyre's gone further than we expected so far. So I think I'm not expecting there to be any tyre shocks, famous last words, between now and the end of the Grand Prix. So it's about sheer pace now in the top 5, and can Piastri use that 6 laps extra fresh tyres and put some, they put him out of position. He's 21 seconds off the lead now, Piastri. It was kind of a bit of a halfway house, that stop for him. He now needs to banzai his next few laps. Caution to the wind.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, as well. We'll just watch this move from Daniel Ricciardo on Valtteri Bottas, that it felt like they left Piastri for a long time, but we're only just at half race distance here.
Yeah, but compared to the rivals, it's sort of, he's lost track position, hasn't he? Now, will 6 laps on set hard compound tyres be advantageous later on this afternoon? We don't know. That's why we're watching.
But I think no further investigation, by the way, that incident in the pit lane down at Alpine. I think the performance and the pace of Charles Leclerc has, I wouldn't say it's taken McLaren by surprise, but I don't think McLaren were expecting Ferrari and Leclerc to be right up there. This has been a decent drive from Charles Leclerc this afternoon.
Again.
Yeah, he's put himself in the mix here when others might not have been expecting it.
He's been more tenacious than fast of late, because Ferrari have just lost out, haven't they, in the development. Their development program didn't show dividends, others have, and they'll regroup, I'm sure.
And go to Monza next time out for the Italian Grand Prix, where both Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz will be utter heroes all weekend long, and where Carlos Sainz will celebrate his 30th birthday on race day, and his last birthday that he can celebrate as a Ferrari driver as well. Bernie Collins, what do you got for us?
Hi Crofty, I was just watching through that pit stop there for Gasly. I watched it several times now. The front right of the wing, you've seen that mechanic just in front of it there. They have a little gun that they adjust the wing angle for the different compounds, and they didn't seem to get the gun directly into the correct position. And then furthermore, it didn't look like they'd fully got the adjust done, so you might get some balance issues for Gasly in the next stint, because he's got one half of the wing set correctly and one half of the wing potentially, I've not heard anything in the video, but potentially not set correctly.
He's lost out to Alex Albon as well, who stopped a lot earlier. Alex Albon, it has to be said, but he's now behind the Williams down in 12th place.
Albon, of course, who started right at the back of the grid, going nicely. So Piastri has just done a 1:14.2, followed by a 1:14.3, fastest man on the track. He is very quickly coming back at George Russell now.
Let's talk about Alex Albon. James Vowles is his team boss. He's on the pit wall. James, it's been a busy old morning for you. I'm sure you've had lots to contend with. Is this race putting a bit more of a smile on your face so far?
It takes a lot, as you know, with me to make me happy. Not so far. It's difficult to undo, you know, what has happened this weekend, both between the accident and also between our own doing. But it's a long race. I think we've got a long way to go. It's going to be a difficult end of the race. Let's see what happens. But we're in a more positive position. What has brought me happiness is the car remains quick.
Yeah. He's done 25 laps on these tyres. How much longer can he go, Alex Albon?
I think it is possible to go to the end. It's just a question of how fast you are. So that's really what we're trading on at the moment. Do we think we're going to be okay in those dying stages of the race?
James, can you confirm all he had to do was just shave a little bit off the bodywork and the car was good to go, yeah?
Yeah, correct. It's decimals of a millimetre. That's the world we operate in now. It's a bit of probably 400 grit sandpaper, and that's it, in one very specific location.
Thanks ever so much, James. We'll be back with you a little later on, if that is okay. Alex Albon running 11th, Logan Sargent down in 17th. In between the two Williams cars in 14th is this man, Lance Stroll, who came into the pit lane to make his pit stop and didn't slow down in time, I'm afraid. He's been given a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. The limit is 60 kilometres an hour. There is no tolerance during the course of a weekend. You either get fined if it's a practice session or qualifying, or you get a penalty during the race, and that's what he's picked up. And talking of picking up, how about this for picking up pace? Oscar Piastri now right on the back of George Russell in the Mercedes.
Yeah, if he carries on like that, if he can clear these cars quickly, he is again looking at a podium, Oscar Piastri. This is key. If he can just sail past Russell, that'll do him nicely.
Well, can he do that? We've had enough rain here to make boats very much the favoured mode of transport down that main straight, and he has sailed past George Russell on the exit of turn 1. Piastri gets that move done at the first time of asking, and that is absolutely critical, and he is going very nicely indeed ahead now of George Russell. Meanwhile, out in front, while we watch one McLaren making an overtake, lap after lap after lap, Lando Norris is extending that lead, and it's now about 10 seconds as Alex Albon makes his way on the track. A gaggle of cars there, past Kevin Magnussen, with Gasly in hot pursuit and Fernando Alonso in hot pursuit too, and they come out of turn 1 with Gasly just ahead and forcing his way past Alex Albon, who thought he got into the points, but he's now going to have to stay in 11th place.
They work a treat, don't they? So Piastri, he'll be on the tail of Leclerc in 4 laps. And then if he can make the same move quickly on Leclerc, and I think he's quite a bit quicker than Leclerc, then Red Bull will start looking in their rearview mirrors with Verstappen and Piastri. So the McLaren is just unbelievably fast, especially on these tyres, and they're just coming alive.
And now he's in clean air. He has just put, he's gone 0.4 of a second faster on that last lap than Max Verstappen. Fastest man, though, is Carlos Sainz, who's just put in a 1:14.1 as he's behind Sergio Perez. Gasly ahead of Albon on your screens, ahead of Alonso, ahead of Stroll, and Kevin Magnussen at the tail end of this, who hasn't pitted yet. He's the only driver yet to come in the pit stops. Haas, I think, looking for a safety car, which doesn't seem to be coming. Not just a safety car, we actually haven't had a yellow flag yet either. And maybe those tyres are starting to go off a bit for Alex Albon as Fernando Alonso passes the Williams with ease down the straight. And while that happens, Magnussen manages to pit. So Albon now finds himself behind Fernando Alonso and ahead of Lance Stroll, who's got that 5-second penalty. And Oscar Piastri is continuing on his way here, chasing down Charles Leclerc. That's going to be the next battle in about 4 or 5 laps' time. This was absolutely brilliant. It's like watching the Indy 500 here, the amount of cars together going around the banking.
Yeah, a lot going on there, wasn't there? And,
it's just dangerous. Like, really dangerous.
What was?
I don't know. Well, obviously, their delayed radio message, so I don't know which bit exactly he was talking about there.
Does he mean Magnussen kind of holding everybody up? But that looked like racing to me, Martin.
Yeah, I don't know what Alex is referring to there. It might be something else altogether, but whatever it was, he didn't like it. Yeah.
I'll take the point. Alex Albon is not a man to complain about danger when that's racing and that's cars jockeying for position.
I don't know exactly what he was referring to, so we'll ask him after the race. Yeah, so Piastri coming into play as well will stop Red Bull with Verstappen trying to destabilise McLaren with say a later stop and put some soft tyres on it or something, and try to come back at them. Lewis Hamilton has done that here before, and just a contrary strategy to try to destabilise McLaren. If Piastri can bring himself up into position, he's currently 9.3 behind Verstappen.
Piastri can overtake Charles Leclerc. It's another 3 points, of course, in that Constructors' Championship battle. And that would mean McLaren, if it stayed with Perez in 6th and Verstappen in 2nd and Norris winning, that will be a 28-point difference as we go towards Monza in the Constructors' Championship, that has been led by Red Bull since Spain. And that's Spain 2022.
Yes. And to remind you, both cars can score in the Constructors' Championship, and that's why the gaps are somewhat more significant, if you like, in terms of the points differences.
I haven't taken the points for the fastest lap into consideration. Neither Red Bull nor McLaren have that bonus points at the moment, but anything can happen between now and the end of this race. Carlos Sainz chasing Sergio Perez. Behind him, Lewis Hamilton, currently in 8th. When we do our little chats in the paddock, Martin, you and I, we went to Ferrari and said, is there a chance here that it could be Sainz and Hamilton battling for 7th and 8th by the end of the race? They went, yeah, that's pretty much the prediction. That's exactly what could be going on here.
Yeah, the trouble is they run 5,000 simulations, don't they? And they're pretty sure they know what's going to happen, and then there's a first corner shunt or something, and throw it all out the window. Thank goodness.
We just took a guess. Carlos Sainz behind Sergio Perez for how much longer? Perez's pace at the moment. He lapped 1:14.9 on the last lap. Max Verstappen putting a 1:15.2, and he's lost another 3/10 to Lando Norris on this particular lap as well.
Piastri now just...
Might have been he was lapping Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah. Piastri will now be on Leclerc in the next couple of laps.
So Leclerc, with that in mind, has I think been given a little bit of a hurry up by the Ferrari pit wall and told just to up your pace a touch. He's putting a personal best for the first sector here. As we see Esteban Ocon.
And Max
His battle with Valtteri Bottas. Apologies.
Yeah, sorry. Max Verstappen on the radio apparently saying we've lost grip, we're losing grip. So, and he's now 10.8, make that 11.4 off the pace of Norris. So the Red Bull is chewing up its tyres. It seems 5 minutes since it was Red Bull who barely touched its tyres, doesn't it? But of course, you know, if you're cruising out front, nobody's bothering you. It's a whole different race. All of a sudden, you're pushing the car, and you get a new set of problems.
Carlos Sainz on Sergio Perez once again. He's going to go around the outside into turn 1. Perez with that inside line manages to stay ahead, and there was almost contact as the door was slammed shut by Sergio Perez, and his battle with Sainz there. That could have ended up with both drivers out of the race. They continue on for another challenge.
Sainz will say he'll be on the blower saying he didn't leave me enough space, but they live for another day, the pair of them.
And as one Ferrari chases down a Red Bull, the other Ferrari is watching in its mirrors here. Charles Leclerc with Oscar Piastri behind him. And you talk about challenges. We had in Belgium, Max Verstappen with that engine penalty through the 4th, but he couldn't make any impression on the podium. And
gap to Verstappen is 10. Under a safety car, we think we would take it for a medium, put that behind him, and then you'd pass him. Happy?
Yeah, you sound maybe a little confident. I agree. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, so they're just checking with him what they're basically saying. If there's a safety car and we come in, Red Bull will stay out. Do you think you can pass him with a fresh set of tyres? And Lando very calmly saying, that sounds like fun, more or less, wasn't it?
Here comes Carlos Sainz once again. He just couldn't get past Sergio Perez on the last lap. He's close once again, and once again Perez slams the door shut. So he just needs a bit of extra pace. I'm trying to say, talking about challenges, Helmut Marko says many things, but he did say coming into this race, don't expect our performance to be better than Spa. We've not been able to do anything on this car during the summer break, and we're going to have to live with what we've got. And it's quite obvious from this race what they've got, Martin, is a car that is not as fast, certainly around this track, as the team that are hunting them down in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, I don't think they're as fast anywhere now. I mean, we'll have some quirky places like Singapore with very special demands, but the McLaren is, I think, unquestionably the car to beat now on all days. Yeah. And Piastri then still behind the Ferrari, and this is key in terms of how quickly can he catch Verstappen. I think if he can clear this Ferrari quickly, he will comfortably catch Verstappen. Yeah,
McLaren could be on for a 1-2 here, but before they do that, they've got to sort out the 3-4. And Piastri on the inside, no room there from Charles Leclerc. Meanwhile, here's Carlos Sainz under braking, and this time I dare say he might just have got the better of Sergio Perez. Under braking, Sainz gets his man. And he's had that pace, but Perez has been able to defend the last couple of laps. Sainz made it look very easy on this particular occasion. He is up into 6th.
Yeah, Sainz did one of those lovely, I'm going to, wherever you brake, I'm going to brake later. And he's got off the brake pedal a little bit and took a metre or two and cleared it. So Sainz then up into that position.
Gap out in front, 12.8 seconds. Norris over Verstappen, who in the previous 3 Dutch Grand Prix failed to lead only 33 laps. Car number 33 as he was once, and only failed to lead 33 laps before today. Norris took the lead on lap 18, conceded it during the pit stops, has got it back again, and is absolutely cruising out in front with a buffer that will cover an opportunity for a pit stop behind a late safety car. But I would imagine if we do get a safety car, then Verstappen might want to come in and change his tyres too. As once again, Piastri frustrated by Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, I think Red Bull would be really nervous of losing out to Leclerc, Piastri, Russell and Sainz if they left Verstappen out there on heavily used, cold, hard compound tyres, if there were to be a safety car. We talk about it here because it's an old school track, does not have service roads on the inside and the outside in many places, which means if a car stops or crashes, you've really got to crane it off or drag it off. It's not easy to recover a car here, so there's a 67% likelihood of a safety car. We haven't had one today.
No, we haven't had a yellow flag yet either. That 48 out of 72. We also haven't had a retirement. All 20 drivers are still running, with the 2 Saubers who are the only team not to score a point so far this year, running in 19th and 20th. Now, this battle, Leclerc and Piastri, is gaining here, and gaining on the back markers of Sargent, Tsunoda and Magnussen, who are obliged to get out of the way, but they're also trying to run their own race. As Magnussen has a little look at Tsunoda, but can't get through, and then loses out a touch as he makes his way through turn 1.
Yeah, you always need extra caution whether you've got a gaggle of drivers like that you're trying to lap, and they may as well bring Hamilton in. He's got a free pit stop, and to see if he can come back at Perez and Sainz and co with some fresh tyres.
And I dare say as well, as he has got 2 new sets of soft tyres, the second of which is going on now, make a bid for the fastest lap in this race, so he could actually pick up a point, as you say, Martin, with that free pit stop.
23 laps to go, though, on those hard compounds, the soft compound rather, but we saw him go very well on those earlier on in the race, didn't we? So that then is, why not? That's a complete why not, isn't it, for Mercedes, because they've got a free pit stop on Hülkenberg.
Yeah, he did 25 laps, didn't he, on the soft tyre in the first stint. So,
and Piastri stalled out there, hasn't he? It's giving Verstappen some breathing space.
I think it's the only real frustration for McLaren this afternoon, the fact that Piastri hasn't quite got that pace to try and close down and stay behind, or close enough behind to make a move on Charles Leclerc, even though he's got the DRS. You get the feeling with the Ferrari there's an energy boost going on that's helping Leclerc down that main straight.
Yeah, Charlie Leclerc might get a bit of DRS from these back markers on the, but they probably perhaps actually have cleared them before they get round there. And who's this for then?
It was that little dummy move. Some soft tyres there. Now that Hamilton stopped, of course, Perez could stop as well and get his free pit stop and try and get his extra point for a fastest lap, which would probably help Red Bull quite a lot if he could.
So Magnussen gets out of the way. He had the blue flag waved at him. He's obliged to do that. There are leaders coming through, but still ahead of him. We've got that squabble of Sargent and Tsunoda.
Yeah, it's not an easy place here, because the track can be quite narrow in parts to lap some of the back markers. I think Verstappen, when he lapped Magnussen, lost about half a second on that particular lap. I was just watching our driver tracker in the commentary box, and then the timing screens.
Keep an eye on this. Leclerc did not get DRS on the back markers. Piastri has, but he's not close enough.
Piastri's going to really need to push here on this lap before Leclerc gets the benefit of that DRS. Tsunoda moves out of the way, which means that he's lost touch with Logan Sargent in doing so. That bit where the back markers do have their race rather ruins if they are scrapping for positions when they have to jump out of the way. As we watch from the rear of the Ferrari, of Charles Leclerc made a good start and has been very, very consistent throughout this race and is on course at the moment for a 37th podium in his Formula One career and a second in succession either side of the summer break. Hamilton Martin does get that fastest lap by quite some margin, a 1:13.8, but he's got 25 seconds to try and close down on Sergio Perez if he's going to nick that 7th spot.
He's got enough time. Will the tyres stay with that kind of pressure on them? So as I say, Mercedes had nothing to lose unless there was a safety car immediately afterwards or something, but there hasn't been.
Lap 52, 14 seconds pretty much the gap out in front. Norris over Verstappen, back markers are being cleared. Leclerc still heads Piastri, Russell in 5th. And that's Logan Sargent under pressure from Yuki Tsunoda, but hanging on the 16th position as we're going to head to race control with Bernie Collins.
Yes, Crofty, so a few little updates for you. Obviously, you've mentioned the back markers a lot there. It was such a short track. The leaders start to lap back markers very, very quickly and will actually lap quite an amount of the grid, like a number of drivers of the grid. Interesting, what are McLaren going to do with Piastri now? Stuck a little bit behind Leclerc. McLaren are the team that have 2 sets of the medium tyres, so he's been told he's in the window, which means if there's a safety car he would box and take that medium tyre. Do they risk it? Do they play the strategy game, box, lose 3 positions to drivers on much older hard tyres and then make that 21-second or 22-second pit loss up again, but give him a shot at that all-important podium?
What would you do, Martin?
Track position seems key, doesn't it? Unless you've got a massive offset with your tyres. It seemed a gamble. The other gamble they played to run Piastri longer has to an extent worked out, although he's now dropped out of the DRS zone from Charles Leclerc, so they'll be mulling that over. But, you know, there's always risk passing other cars. You've got to get up, you've got to get through, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't.
One of the cars he'd have to overtake if he was to take a pit stop would be Sergio Perez. I think, for me, you want to put caution on the side of anything that could go wrong, and what you don't want is to be stuck behind one of the drivers for your rival in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah.
Keep it a bit more simple.
I mean, McLaren are 1st and 4th, as you say, closing the gap again in the World Championship for Constructors. I think it would be bold to risk that 4th place at the moment, but let's see what they do. Let's see how it plays out. I mean, he is stalled out behind the Ferrari though, and that's a conundrum.
But as we go towards the closing stages of this race, Charles Leclerc has had those tyres on for 28 laps. Oscar Piastri has had those tyres on for 19 laps. So there's a nine-lap tyre offset, as they call it, which could be crucial in terms of pace in the last 10 laps or so.
Yeah, but Leclerc's on leader's pace at the moment. He's really flying along in the 1:14s. He's going nicely, so it's almost as if Leclerc sort of fended off that attack and is now back in control of 3rd place.
Meanwhile, out in front, Lando Norris has been lapping the likes of Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, the last couple of laps, and his pace has not relented in the slightest, and he's still lapping faster than Max Verstappen in 2nd place.
Sainz is catching Russell quickly, and that's how do they compare on tyres? 23 laps for Sainz and 28 laps for Russell.
Yeah, you see, Russell's got himself to the back of this train now as well, the Magnussen, Tsunoda and Sargent's train, and he is within DRS range of George Russell ahead of him.
Been a much better race than practice and qualifying for Ferrari, hasn't it?
It has.
They'll be reasonably happy with that, I think, compared to where they looked last night.
Yeah, I don't think they felt the podium was necessarily on. Well, Carlos Sainz paying the price really for not doing a soft tyre run before qualifying because A, the rain came down, and B, had gearbox issues. George Russell, they are going to pull into the pit lane. So the man who tried a one-stop strategy in Belgium is now going to go for a two-stop strategy because he's got a free pit stop to his teammate Lewis Hamilton, and I think they feel that with a set of soft tyres that he can get past Sergio Perez. That is not a new set of tyres, though.
He was ahead of Perez But I think what they realised there was it was inevitable Sainz was going to catch them.
Yeah.
So do something different, basically. He's lost track position to Perez as well. As you said, he's slotted in well ahead of Hamilton. So he's got to come back now and see if he can take... If he gets ahead of Sainz, they won, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did the right thing now with Russell. So that was exactly the kind of gamble Bernie was talking about a little while ago as to whether McLaren might play that card with Piastri.
Well, I was going to ask you, does that then refocus McLaren's discussion as to whether they bring Oscar Piastri in for another pit stop, or, given that he has got that tyre offset in his favour, do they just leave him out because it's the safest thing?
I would be personally nervous of putting Piastri behind Perez, Russell and Sainz voluntarily.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the moment he would be ahead of Russell though, wouldn't he, if he pitted? If Piastri pitted at the end of this lap, he'd be ahead of George Russell. But I know what you mean. There's also a load of back markers in between as well, and the way this race is going, they're going to substantially reduce Red Bull's championship lead if you're thinking about it from a team game. Yeah,
that's what I was saying earlier on. It's you've got to give up a certainty probably for a maybe. But anyway, let's see what McLaren decide to do. How bold they feel they want to get. He actually seems to be coming back a little bit at Leclerc now. Anyway, they're 7 seconds clear of Sainz. So
he's learned this, hasn't he, Oscar Piastri, in his second season in Formula One, where sometimes you've just got to back off a bit, cool those tyres down a touch, and then recharge and remount your attack.
Yeah, but Oscar will be thoroughly unhappy with this, being 23 seconds at the moment behind Norris.
How's the tyre now?
Not amazing, but it'll make it to the end.
Copy that.
Okay, so not brilliant, but we'll be okay. The only driver to complete every single racing lap, by the way, in 2024, and he thinks he's okay to make it safely, comfortably to the end, but in 4th place, where he would have been targeting another podium, I am sure.
Never make a script writer for advertising, would he, Oscar?
He plays everything down, so level-headed.
It's just what you need as an engineer.
His demeanour, it barely changes, to the extent, Martin, that he was racing around with a broken rib and we didn't even notice, you know, because he's that laid back anyway.
He was telling me in the hotel stress fracture that sort of came over a number of races, particularly in high-load right-handers, basically, where his seat was gently pressing and eventually broke a rib. But no doubt some cortisol and a bit of extra padding around the good bits of his seat got him through that, and sheer determination and Aussie grit. Yeah,
and also the pain-killing benefits of a win in Formula One, the 115th driver to win in Formula One, and he did that in Hungary when he would have been feeling a lot of pain from that rib, which I'm sure kind of ebbed away a lot as he got closer to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I would, you know, adrenaline and a win bonus will squash any pain, basically.
Sergio Perez behind him has Kevin Magnussen, and Magnussen's under pressure from Alex Albon, who made a second pit stop. He's on the medium tyres and moves past Magnussen up into 17th place, which might not sound much, but he had to start right at the back of the grid, and they'll be hoping to get him up a few more places at Williams between now and the end.
Talking of Antipodeans, you know, we've got Mick Doohan coming on the grid next year, maybe Liam Lawson.
Mick Doohan.
Sorry, let's call him Mick Doohan.
Mick's son.
Jack, Mick's son. My mate Mick, his boy, is coming on the grid. You've got Liam Lawson, probably.
Hopefully.
Kiwi. You know, a lot of people are hoping Daniel Ricciardo stays on the grid somewhere. That'd be 5 Antipodeans with 26 million people in Australia and 5 million in New Zealand. They'll represent a quarter of the grid. Yeah. That's extraordinary, if it happens like that.
I say hopefully, because I think Liam Lawson deserves his chance in Formula One. Starting with what he produced here this time last year, he's being very patient, and we'll see where he ends up on that one. But yeah, it'll be absolutely incredible. Racing heritage and pedigree, of course, in New Zealand and in Australia. But not as many people to choose from when you're picking drivers as some other countries. Italy, for instance, although I think we might have an Italian driver on the grid for next year. Andrea Kimi Antonelli.
I remember when in the late 80s when I was driving in F1, there were 13 Italian drivers in F1. 13, or 39 cars as well, which was a bit chaotic. But yeah, it's highly unusual to not have a lot of Italians or any Italians on the grid.
Meanwhile, Vive la France, Pierre Gasly is chasing after Nico Hülkenberg, and this to double his points tally and try and bring home at least a 9th place finish for the new boss at Alpine, Oliver Oakes, in his first race at the team. While that continues, Oscar Piastri slowly but surely gaining once again on Charles Leclerc. And whilst that happens, slowly but surely, Lando Norris extending his advantage lap after lap after lap over Max Verstappen. This the race that had become the Max Verstappen celebratory victory, 72 laps, and it is not looking that way this afternoon. Lap 60, Norris in complete control as Esteban Ocon in 14th place, Daniel Ricciardo in 13th. Meanwhile, in the other Alpine, Gasly continues his chase after Nico Hülkenberg. Yeah,
Hülkenberg's getting the fleet operator's prize for best use of tyres today. He's done 44 laps so far on his. Gasly just 26, so big offset as we catch Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah, Hülkenberg off to Sauber for next season, Sauber Audi, and saying goodbye to the Haas team as Oliver Behrman comes in to replace him, and Esteban Ocon will be his teammate. Ocon is Gasly's current teammate, and well, here goes Gasly again. Can he try and get past Nico Hülkenberg, who wants him to go the long way round the outside? He was defending on the inside. Gasly has become very adept in this race at zooming round the outside and picks up that 9th place.
Yeah, he's owned the extra angle of the outside of turn 1, Tarzan, as it's always been known.
Almost as if he was swinging on a vine leaf from tree to tree.
I remember saying Geronimo on the brakes and then Tarzan when I got into it, and then get it out of the gravel trap.
As he did the roar. The driver of the day vote closes in 10 laps. I dare say Lando Norris is getting a lot of those votes at the moment, but there are a few other contenders. So, Bernie Collins, what are you looking at in terms of your race control screen?
Yeah, my race control screens, a few updates. An update on how Russell's getting on in those used soft tyres. He's around a second a lap, slightly more than a second lap faster than Perez, so looks like he could close that gap in time. But with the free air that Carlos Sainz has been given, with Russell doing that pit stop, he has really picked up the pace, and it doesn't look likely, to me at least, that Russell's going to be able to catch that unless Carlos really falls off. That overtake that you just mentioned with Hülkenberg, that's one to watch. Hülkenberg running in P10 on 45-lap old hard tyres.
Yeah.
Is that enough to defend from the two Aston Martins that are going to close really, really quickly for that last points position?
Not sure it is. And I also think, Martin, talking of George Russell, Mercedes might have a decision to make if Lewis Hamilton continues his pace and gets a little bit closer, because he could be the one that's got the pace to challenge Sergio Perez, but we're kind of running out of laps.
Yeah, good point on that. Hamilton catching Russell, and well, when you think that Hamilton started back there in 14th, that's a good effort, isn't it? But it was a late stop from George Russell, and
yeah.
And again, that's one that's put him out of track position and hasn't yet paid any dividends. But I think Hülkenberg can be under pressure from Alonso, Stroll and Ricciardo.
I think you're right on that one. Watching the lap times, it's so impressive the way that Charles Leclerc is managing to lap to within a few thousandths of a second of Oscar Piastri behind him on tyres that are 9 laps old. And, you know, it's a good race tyre in these conditions, that C1 tyre, but this has been a really good effort by Charles Leclerc, and he's actually lapping faster than Max Verstappen currently, albeit by 0.3 of a second a lap, and he's not going to be troubling necessarily Verstappen by the end. We'll keep an eye on the Red Bull drivers' tyres there. Verstappen seems to have just gone into a pace management phase of this race, Martin, where he's like, I'm not going to get first and I want to keep that second place and defend. But, you know, Leclerc is still chipping away.
Leclerc's, yeah, just far enough away not to be too much of a pest, isn't he, for Verstappen at the moment? all respect to the Dutch fans, they're not exactly marching out of the place, are they?
No.
Because they've become so used to Max dominating these races, well, certainly winning them, since we returned here to Zandvoort. But they did not remotely have an answer to McLaren's raw pace today.
That decision at Mercedes that I was talking about, Lewis Hamilton has just put in the new fastest lap of the race. He's now less than 3 seconds, so about 2.5 seconds behind his teammate. He might need to swap things around there, albeit Russell's come up behind that Sargent Sonoda Magnussen train of drivers, and that might have been holding him up slightly as well. We're on board with Fernando Alonso. We wondered, could the Aston Martin get past the Haas of Hulkenberg, who's trying to go to the end on that set of hard compound tyres and produce the Hail Mary strategy, and it's a strategy that is not putting him into the points currently, because Alonso's just taken that final point in the race.
George Russell won't be pleased if he gets passed by Hamilton as well. That means they gave up track position with Sainz chasing him down and Perez, but it was clear Sainz was going to pass him anyway, wasn't it?
Thing is, of the 2 Mercedes drivers, the only one at the moment who's got the pace to challenge Sergio Perez, and it might come down to the last lap, is Lewis Hamilton. So they might need to make that decision. We'll see. The gap now, about 1.5 seconds between Russell and Hamilton, who we ride on board with, down that main straight. And he's now got those 3 cars, those 3 back markers to try and contend with. So we've got about 8 laps to go in this race, Martin. We ought to, at some stage, focus on the race leader, who we haven't seen for a while, as Lando Norris has been untroubled, untouched and unbeatable here. And, well, considering where we started this season and how we had to wait until Miami for the McLaren to show us what it was made of, and for Lando to get that race win, this is the sort of performance he would have been dreaming of on all those days he spent on the beach in the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely, and even in Miami, the safety car was a touch fortunate for McLaren, but they put themselves into the position of becoming fortunate by their raw pace, but it's pure pace today. And that confidence of, okay, we'll give Verstappen the first corner, not ideal, but, you know, plan B, and they really, yeah, they've aced it. They've absolutely aced it. And this is the sort of gap, 18 seconds to Verstappen at the moment. Probably going to end up well over 20 seconds. And, you know, that's the sort of gap that even Red Bull were not necessarily winning by when they were dominating everything.
Well, the last time anyone other than Verstappen has won a race by as much as 10 seconds was nearly 2.5 years ago. Charles Leclerc in Australia 2022. And he's liable to win by 20 seconds in this race. There's a little lock up there over the curb.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's still on the brakes there, but it's all fine, isn't it?
When you've got an 18-second lead, that sort of thing's absolutely okay. You don't want to do it too often, of course, if you're Lando Norris. But he's making his way at the moment to turn 4 as Verstappen completes lap 65 of this race. Cost him a 10th in the final sector to Verstappen, that little lock-up, but he's got many tenths in hand, about 180 of them. He's hit the bullseye very much in this race today. Hamilton, now that he and Russell have cleared those back markers, is continuing to gain on his teammate, but they're both the Mercedes a little bit adrift of Sergio Perez once again, and still Oscar Piastri is behind Charles Leclerc and not looking like he's going to get past Charles Leclerc unless he's saved it all for 5 of his finest laps between now and the checkered flag.
Yeah, Mercedes ending up 7th and 8th at the moment. That's gained a few extra critical points for Red Bull, hasn't it?
Yeah.
With Perez up in 6th, even if they did lose out to Sainz.
I think they would have felt the pace would have been there to get ahead, but it hasn't quite happened. Has Perez done enough for Red Bull today? Started 5th, finishing 6th?
Just about. But, you know, who else would you put in where you go, I'll guarantee that driver, who else do you put in who's available, I'll guarantee that driver will do better than that.
I think that was the decision that they had to make, and thought, right, we'll put all our faith in the one that's got the seat. We'll give him every chance. Stories that he's had a bit of driver coaching at Silverstone in between Spa and here at Zandvoort, and see if that will help turn things around a bit. And in the Constructors' Championship, there's the current gap between Red Bull and McLaren. It's going to come down to what? 31 points. A gain of 37 for McLaren, or 37 points scored for McLaren in this race. You keep doing that. By the time we go to Singapore, that Constructors' Championship might just see a swap around at the top.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Especially if they can keep beating Verstappen, and then both McLarens, if they finish, they should be ahead of Perez on the form of this season anyway.
5 laps to go then. There's your race leader, Lando Norris, who could be providing McLaren with their first win at Zandvoort since 1985. Niki Lauda's last race win in Formula 1. And he could be winning from pole for the first time in his career, and in terms of Formula 1, for the first time in 6 consecutive races. If it was all decided on driver of the day, Lando Norris would win this championship comfortably.
He would, wouldn't he? He's a popular lad, and understandably so. He's very open, isn't he? He's very, you know, he doesn't hide his mood or his feelings. Sometimes you wince a bit, thinking, oh, Lando, don't be so hard on yourself, but he's a very open lad, and people appreciate that.
But he looked focused this morning, Martin. He had a smile on his face when you caught a quick chat with him in the paddock, and we speculated would his starts, you know, be on his mind. The fact that he hasn't had the best starts when starting right at the front, and I don't think that has been the case. He's put it very much to the back of his mind, even though it didn't go completely according to plan today. But that is a proper gallery in that McLaren garage, waiting to start the celebrations in 4.5 laps' time.
Yeah, both McLarens had a bit of a tardy start. So work to do there.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Albeit it does help sometimes if you can start and get it right. And the gap, 19.8 seconds. We're at nearly 20 seconds. Piastri just can't find a way to get close enough to Charles Leclerc to get some DRS assistance and to try and mount a challenge on that Ferrari. Albeit he is a lot closer on this lap. And if he can take out another couple of tenths, he'll be under that second. Is this the start of the charge for Oscar Piastri? Going well for McLaren. Red Bull with their pace. They're not leading, but they're right up there. Ferrari with a much better race pace than they had in qualifying. The team that kind of has lost out on pace this weekend is the team that won 2 of the previous 3 races, and that's Mercedes.
Yeah. Absolutely. They'll be somewhat shocked to be down in 7th and 8th, 45 seconds off the lead. And Norris on his merry way out of turn 1. Gimbal camera makes me feel a bit seasick, to be honest, but it's quite interesting.
I don't know how the cameraman holds them. One career race win, and it is about to be doubled. And as I said, no one has won a race by over 10 seconds other than Max Verstappen in the last 2.5 years, and Norris has doubled that one today with a 20-second margin. And it's, I tell you what, if you want to come back from the summer break, Martin, and make a proper statement, a 20-second margin of victory, it is quite the statement to make.
It is. There'll be 9 races to go after this, and so many times, haven't we, where recently Red Bull have struggled, but we've always said at the end of the race, and Max Verstappen increases his championship lead because it's been different drivers having strong weekends.
Yeah, I don't think that's not going to start happening now, because McLaren they are the clear fastest car on this track, and the man in charge in second, I should say, in the championship is the clear strongest challenger to Max Verstappen. There are plenty of people in the paddock who have been in this sport for a long, long time saying, do you know what, both championships are up for grabs here, not just the constructors. And the more McLaren chip away at that, the more Red Bull will start to feel it between now and Abu Dhabi as well. Yeah,
and you can't look back because there's no point, it won't change anything, but McLaren, there were some races where McLaren should have scored a lot more points on there and had another win or 2, but it was all part of the learning process to get them where they are now.
Armin van Buren waiting to make a smash hit with the checkered flag this afternoon. Should have got Martin Garrix up there as well, who I believe is a very good mate of Lando Norris's.
And Max.
Yeah.
And Max as well.
That's true. He could have had get them all up there with the decks as well. You know, this crowd have been entertained royally by some proper good music during the course of this weekend. But for the next 2.46 miles, the only thing Lando Norris wants to hear is the noise of his Mercedes V6 engine powering him around this racetrack to what will be his second victory in Formula One. And whilst it might not have started as well as he wanted, it is going to finish in some sensational style as he smashes it absolutely out of the park. Behind him, his teammate, I think he's pretty much given up the ghost here unless Leclerc makes a mistake. Piastri is not going to join him on the podium. Verstappen has struggled for tyre wear, but crucially for pace ever since on lap 18. This car number 4, took the lead of this race. Joined Max Verstappen as the only 2 drivers to have led over 100 laps this season. They are the top 2 in the championship. They are going to scrap it out now all the way to Abu Dhabi.
This is a massive confidence boost for Lando Norris in particular, and McLaren as well, but in terms of converting the pole position into a victory.
And I love the way the Dutch crowd are all standing to applaud Lando Norris and his efforts here today. And what an effort it's been too. McLaren bounce back after the summer break, take the Dutch Grand Prix. Lando Norris wins in Zandvoort. That championship challenge is ignited here by the shores of the North Sea. Max Verstappen will come home in second place, but that Red Bull has been a distant second here this afternoon. Norris wins, Verstappen takes second.
And Norris did the fastest lap of the race on the final tour for another World Championship point.
Charles Leclerc takes the podium spot, holds off Oscar Piastri. It is all smiles for Zach Brown down at McLaren. Carlos Sainz comes home to finish 5th. Checo Perez crosses the line in 6th. Mercedes, after their recent wins, only 7th and 8th today. Pierre Gasly will take 9th for Alpine, and Fernando Alonso the final points position for Aston Martin. This is Lando's Sunday, and the British driver has come to the Netherlands and has taken maximum points and taken them from Max.
Great drive.
Well done. Well done. Oh, mega drive.
Simply lovely, huh? Well done.
You did just sneak it in there as well. Fastest lap of the end.
Thank you. Well done, boys. Incredible job. Car was unbelievable. Thank you so much. Incredible job. Let's keep pushing. Let's make it more easy. Because it was still a tough race, but let's keep pushing. Love you all. Thank you.
It was a strong drive. Well done.
First driver in the current era to beat Max Verstappen in his own backyard, and he nicks his catchphrase as well.
Very intentionally.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a final lap that was. The speed, it shows you how much pace he'd still got available had he have needed it. And so that extra championship point, ever so valuable.
Absolutely. Max Verstappen had to play second fiddle here today.
So good job, Max. We got what we thought we would today, so head down. Nice job.
Yeah, difficult race that, but took me too, so that's okay.
Yeah, good drive, Max. We weren't quick enough today, but you got everything that there was in the car, so well done, damage limitation.
Confirmation Red Bull did not come here expecting or really looking for a victory. Look, it's only the 4th time this season that Max has had his Championship League Cup, but on a breezy day at Zandvoort, there feels like a wind of change in this championship battle. 9 races to go, a lot of points up for grabs, and I don't think either lead in either championship is safe now.
Yeah, and Red Bull are very lucky they've got Max Verstappen at the moment.
Yeah.
Because he's making a difference. He always did, but it really matters at the moment in keeping them at least in touch and ahead of, you know, you got Leclerc and Piastri had solid days, but somehow Max still finished ahead of them. But he couldn't even begin to see this young man at the end of the race.
Yeah, it's celebrations, measured celebrations, I think. The key, I think, here for McLaren, after taking the victory by such a margin, it's keeping their feet on the ground a bit in the next few races before it really could get intense.
As his dad, Adam.
Yeah. Double winner here at Zandvoort in F3 back in the day was Lando Norris. All those years, 2017. And driver of the day as well. The pole sitter has won. I haven't said that for a while. And Max Verstappen beaten in the second place in Holland, and we've never said that.
No, and it's why I said it was so important. For Lando now, the whole stigma of the starts and not being able to win from pole falls away.
Yeah.
And all of that psychological pressure, subconsciously, consciously, falls away. And that is a massive boost for him for the rest of this season.
Charles Leclerc with the podium, and a fine drive for him from 6th on the grid. The margin of victory in the end, 22.8 seconds. That is the largest winning margin of the season. Helped a little bit by that fastest lap on the last lap, but it would still have been around about 22 seconds.
Yeah. He's leaving a lot of grip in Parc Fermé as well, quite clearly, if he can do that lap time.
Isn't he just? Didn't need to push it any harder at all. During the course of the race, he had that pace in clean air. Red Bull had no answers to it today. Oscar Piastri continues his record as the only driver to complete every lap of the 2024 season, and Carlos Sainz finishes in the top 6 for the 6th consecutive race, and for the 4th consecutive race here in Zandvoort in the top 5.
That's a cracking lineup on the podium, isn't it? Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc. We've got some, what a grid of drivers we've got at the moment. Wonderful to see.
Absolutely. Welcome back, Formula One. After the summer break, Guido van der Garde, very sharp-dressed man in the paddock this weekend. I hope he's got his Sunday best on. He's got the microphone in his hand, and I believe that's Max Verstappen in front of him.
P2, I think, is not really the result you hoped for.
Well, you always try to do better. I mean, we had a good start, so we tried everything we could today, but throughout the race, I think it was quite clear that we're not quick enough, so I tried to be second today.
Well, with the start looked really, really nice. I mean, everybody was cheering you on. All the circuit went completely crazy on the grandstands. Did you dream a lot last night about the start, how you would manage to turn one?
To be honest, not at all. I know that we have good starts, so I was quite confident that we would have another one, and luckily it was like that. And then, yeah, I just tried to do my own race, and that was my race, and that was second today.
Anyway, good result, I think, not that you hoped for. Maybe some words in Dutch as well, misschien in Nederlands wat te zeggen.
Ja, natuurlijk. Kijk, het liefst win ik natuurlijk vandaag, maar ik kan ze niet allemaal winnen. En ik ben natuurlijk nog altijd heel blij met P2. Ik hoop dat iedereen ervan genoten heeft, en tot volgend jaar.
Top man, congratulations, well done. Ja. Charles, wow, what a race, starting P6, finishing P on the podium. Unbelievable result for you and the whole team.
Yeah, very, very surprised. I'm not very often happy with a P3, but I think with today's race we can be extremely happy with the job we've done. On a difficult weekend for the team, we've been struggling from Friday until the race. In the race we found some more pace, executed a perfect strategy. We undercutted two of our competitors there, and then we managed to keep them behind. So a really strong race for the team, and yeah, really happy to start the second half like this.
Yeah, as you said, strategic, I think it was a really good call from the team, but also with the start, you passed Perez, was also a good move.
Yeah, also at the start, I knew it was a big opportunity. I didn't know that later on we will also have the pace to keep him behind, but I knew that the first lap was an opportunity for us to gain 1 or 2 positions. I went for the pass, it all worked well, but never would I have thought that I would stand on the podium after such a difficult weekend for the team.
Anyway, congratulations, well done for you and the whole team, and good luck next week at the Ferrari's home track.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, big week next week in Monza for Fred Vasseur, for Ferrari, the Tifosi.
Heineken Dutch Grand Prix winner. How does that feel?
Thanks. It feels amazing. Yeah, once again. I wouldn't say a perfect race because of lap 1 again, but after was beautiful. You know, the pace was very strong. The car was unbelievable today, so I could get comfortable. I could push and get past Max, which was the main thing, and just go from there. So honestly, quite a straightforward race. Still tough, but very enjoyable.
Did the orange army help you a little bit?
Did what?
The orange army helped you a little bit because
yeah, I mean we have so many fans here, so it's beautiful. I mean I have a lot of Dutch fans and Dutch supporters, so I thank you very much. I mean I'm sure some are a little upset, but I hope it was a good race, and yeah, a lot of them supporting me, so I appreciate it a lot.
By lap 80, when you passed Max, would you knew that already that you would win that race?
Yeah, I mean I think from quite early on actually, from probably lap 5, 6, 7. I expected Max to start pushing and get a bit of a gap, and he never did. So from that point, I knew we were in with a good fight. But he seemed to just keep dropping off, and my pace was getting better. So it's a nice feeling inside the car, and especially when I got past, you know, I could just get comfortable. I could push. I had clean air, and that's always a big help.
Well done, man. Enjoy the moment, and good luck next week.
I will. Thank you, man. Thank you all.
Andrea Stella, the McLaren team principal, said before the race, when you have a fast car, you need to make sure that you do your best to run in clean air, and that's what they got on lap 18 when Lando Norris managed to get past Max Verstappen, and once he got into clean air, it was a clear winner. And moves over to the pit wall to see the celebrations from his team whilst in the crowd. Those are the Broadly Union flag, and those are the wearing orange. We're all celebrating too, and it was nice to see actually on that last lap that whoever was wearing orange, Dutch fans or those with a papaya, were all standing to celebrate the victory.
Yeah, I really respect that from the Dutch fans.
Yeah,
that's super impressive. They know a good performance when they see one, and yeah, he's turned up, hasn't he? And won in Max's backyard.
Let's have a little listen in the cool down.
How far were we from 20 seconds or something? 22 seconds? Yeah.
Did they run the upgrade? Because I saw that he ran in FP1, then he took it off in FP2, Lando.
Yeah, but then they did run it right at the end. Or did they?
I don't know.
But it will spin.
But straight away, it wasn't like a hurricane.
But it was very low grip in general. I found it.
Maybe me and Oscar got it.
Yeah.
What lap time did you do at the end?
13.8. The final lap, half a second.
You did.
Yeah, but it's right here, nothing.
Yeah, true, yes.
100% deployment. They were not quick, Mercedes? Or
not on the hard.
Because George was third after the
on the mediums it was okay. Hard,
oh my god. Oh my god. 4.
I think there seems to be a different expression on the faces of the three team principals we saw there. Apologies, by the way, for any language that you may have heard from the cool-down room that you didn't appreciate. Lando Norris, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc in conversation, in debate, knowing which upgrades were run at which times during the weekend. I find that incredible. On someone else's car. As they step out onto the podium then, fourth race this season, no classified retirements. That means it's the most in any season in Formula One history. So Bahrain, Spain, Austria, and here, no yellow flags, lots of blue flags, no safety car, no retirements. Ferrari on the podium with Charles Leclerc, an 818th podium in Formula One history for Ferrari. Max Verstappen, second place for him, and a 108th podium. His first since Silverstone. Lando Norris, a second Grand Prix win in Formula One. Out over Zandvoort for Lando Norris. And if he's having a boiled egg for breakfast, there's probably put an ostrich egg in that one. What a trophy that is.
Yeah, we always have to be cautious when you give Lando a trophy, don't you?
Yes, put it down gently. That's the one. Gets a medal as well. Will Joseph, his race engineer, up on the podium with him. A strong bond that those two have formed over the years, turning into a winning bond now. Second win, but who knows what is to come in the next 9 races. Zach Brown and Sheikh Salman watching on from Parc Fermé, Kingdom of Bahrain, heavily investing in this McLaren team. Woking to Manama and all points in between. Meanwhile, Kelly Piquet watches on as her man picks up another trophy. But for Max Verstappen, this was a day where he and Red Bull were soundly beaten into second place. Ferrari will smile at a podium they maybe didn't think was possible